Not a matter of if, but when crisis will rock your world. I'm Roshini Rajkumar, crisis strategist, licensed attorney, and host of The Crisis Files. You know, we cover hot topics in every episode. Today, we take a pause from crisis busting to do some self-exploration. My guest is Peter Bailey. He's president of Prouty Project, a leadership development firm that specializes in transformation and finding ways to work better together. Before we can work well with others, we want to ensure our own trackers operate at full capacity. Peter is here for the case file I call Self-GPS. Peter, no matter what you're facing, a new job, a promotion, a lost job, a loss in the family, epic life changes can make us question ourselves and our internal guides.
Yeah, well, it's no surprise. These are highly turbulent times right now, and many of us are scrambling around as if anthill's been kicked up, and usually that brings fear and mayhem. And what myself and my team, what we like to look at is, well, let's go back to ourselves. Let's get grounded in yourselves and in your organizations and ask some key questions. Who are we? And what do we know to be truth in times like this? What's within us that can be most useful? And what am I being called to do and called to deliver in times like this? Too often, there's this sense that chaos disrupts us. And I think in the TED Talk that we talked about, I did a quote from James Allen that he says, crisis doesn't build character. It actually reveals character. So these are times that really call upon us to take a deep breath and show up with the best skills we have.
You referenced your TED Talk. So Peter did a TED Talk, Heroic Journey Mindset. And in that, you lay out some steps. And it starts with a call to adventure. And I know you love to travel the world. You are an adventurer. What do you mean for each of us in this call to adventure?
You know, I lived, worked, traveled in 50 countries, so the global adventure is certainly where people go at first. But adventure can be anything. It can be changing jobs, moving to a new city, bringing a puppy home, or adopting children. And I think we have to be getting ourselves into an adventurous mindset. And if we bring the spirit of adventure, we can recognize that no matter what happens, you know, you've heard the thing that crisis is danger and opportunity. No matter what's happening, what's the opportunity here? And how can I begin to expand my response to that with a more positive energy rather than, you know, the sky is falling, doom and gloom?
We like always to bring solutions to the table for solving crisis, for preventing crisis. But as you say in your heroic journey mindset, as you set off on this call to adventure, there will be a road of challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. And that call to adventure, sometimes we may refuse. You know, this work draws from Joseph Campbell, and those things that happen to us are sometimes precipitating events like 9/11 or COVID or a health crisis in your family that we sort of are thrust upon, and we have to go through those. But those are also choices that we make where, you know, I've been invited to take a job in Chicago, and I decided not to take that call to adventure. The road of challenges is once we've crossed that threshold and we have said yes to the challenge, now we're in it. And often there's that sort of buyer remorse that says, you know, ooh, I wish I hadn't done this just yet, or this is harder than I thought.
Yeah, and that's going to happen, and that's where we kind of dig in. But hopefully we continue on this call to adventure. We overcome the challenges on that road, and it leads to a gift.
Yeah, I truly worked with every one of our leadership teams on heroic journeys to see the journey that they're on with that type of passage, a call to adventure, guardians of the gate that might resist and push them back, then the road of challenges, and then the gift, as you say. What are the things we're taking from this time that are really the gold, or inside the geode, there are these crystals, and we kind of forget in hard rocks inside these shiny crystals. So no matter what happens, and I told in the TED Talk, my wife's cancer journey, like, what are those things that we learned from that journey that actually strengthen you going forward? And I think that's the power of the heroic journey, is that it makes us stronger for our next trip around the sun.
And there is a magical return, as you say, and then that coming home, that final coming home from this call to adventure. Now, if the adventure is indeed a move to another city. How do you describe what that coming home or the magical return mean?
Well, too often we get a little caught up in the headiness of an accomplishment. Look what I did. And I think it's meant to be more grounded than that. If we really own the experience of our lives, we're more in touch with what have I learned? How have I changed? We'll come back with the gifts that we truly own. And then as we do, we're stronger for them and we don't get bumped from that course when we come back. Because unfortunately, when we do come back, and many of you have experienced this if you've traveled and come back or lived overseas, the reentry is hard. And nobody really knows what you've been on, so they minimize it. You know, you go on a major trek and someone says, oh, how was your little holiday? And it's like, it wasn't a holiday.
Right. It was 2,000 miles of hiking or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it minimizes, or your, maternity leave, nobody's going to know what you went through. And so if you have a magical return, it's really about grounding that learning so that when you come around again, the next journey isn't so hard and you make better choices. I like to think of our experiential education of our lives is about the maturation of our choice making. How do I make better choices so that I have better choices to pick from? And then we keep doing that. We keep sort of climbing as we go.
Life is full of choices, right?
Absolutely.
Sometimes we stop and wonder, what if I had done this at that time and where would I be now? But hopefully, if we're thoughtful at any juncture when a decision needs to be made or a choice is in front of us of 2 or 3 paths, hopefully if we were thoughtful at that time, we don't live to a regretful place.
And that's where, just to mention, the book that I'm working on called Reframe is to say, what are those painful things that we regret? But if we look back at them, we can say, wait, that actually helped me.
The big lesson.
Yeah, the big lessons. Which one of those that were painful or I regretted actually gave me honey to my heart, gave me compassion? And which ones gave me strength to my sword arm or resilience so that for the next challenge, the next battle, we really are, like you've heard the saying, life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. So if we take even no matter what's happening right now, we've been groomed for this moment.
Yeah, and that's a really powerful thing if we dwell on that line that you just said and think about that. We have been groomed for this moment, even if our past has some imperfection, which is totally fine, totally human.
Maybe even not even calling imperfection. How do we help people take a sense of themselves right now, get a much better grasp on who they are and the tools they have and the experiences they have so that they go forward, as you said, to make better choices?
Let's talk about mind shifts. So I love this heroic journey mindset. And hopefully people listen to this case file number 144, self-GPS, often and take notes and really reflect on what you're saying. This call to adventure, there will be challenges, but it's okay. Stick with them. Work through the guardians of the gate. Get that gift, catch that gift, receive it, accept it. And understand that magical return is the empowerment should you be called to adventure in the future or you have challenges in the future. You now have more lessons and more ammunition in your pack to take with you. Let's talk about mindset, though, because there are so many different things that could come up in people's lives, even if they have had this wonderful heroic journey mindset up until now. But then a very new challenge comes up. What can we do to foster that mindset, to strengthen the mindset?
We've all talked a lot about mindfulness, and too often we forget that wonderful journey that you went on, all the stuff you learned. Something happens, and we forget that we know all that. And so mindfulness will call us back to really knowing, what do I need to do right now? I was reminded a friend of mine, McClellan Hall, who's Cherokee background but lives in New Mexico in the Zuni tribe that he's working with. And he always used to say, greet the sun in the morning. And he says, when the sun's coming up, you will see a direct arrow to you. Now think about this. As that sun comes over, you squint a little bit, there's an arrow shot right to you. And that's to you, Roshini, and that's to me. And it does call upon us to show up. What am I going to do right now?
Because that is a gift. That's a daily gift that we receive.
Absolutely. This morning, I sent you a picture of the sunrise.
Yes.
And I said, you know what? We have to remember that shake the Etch-a-Sketch. We're starting again today. What are my gifts today?
Peter, I love that you speak in such visual terms because it really is memorable. The honey to the heart. I hadn't heard that before. I love that. it also reminds us that everything is so interconnected. Yes, the heart is an organ. It's part of our physical being, but that honey to the heart, there are sweet things that can come and really nurture the heart. And we need to look for those things and also be the cause or the source of those things ourselves, right, for others.
Well, and that's the piece that I'd love for you to kind of ripple forward is it's not just for us. We need to do this to get grounded so that we can look like the stone dropped in the pond. The first ripple are the ones we love close to us. How are we impacting them? The next ripple is the community. The next ripple is the world. And how are we making sure that we're starting with ourselves, putting our oxygen mask on first, and then making sure that it's on behalf of others. It's not just self-gratifying. We're here for others, and we have to improve ourselves so that we're even better in gifting to other people.
So beautiful. Peter Bailey, thank you for the inspiration. For more Peter, do check out his TED Talk, Heroic Journey Mindset. You can also find him directly and connect with him there at Prouty Project, Prouty project.com. Today's case file is powered by Huntington. Sometimes reaching your goals takes more than money. It takes know-how. That's why money's just the start of what Huntington can do. Get more than money from your bank. See how at huntington.com/getmore. Rate, review, and subscribe to The Crisis Files on your platform of choice. Follow us on YouTube and Instagram at The Crisis Files. Go to thecrisisfiles.com to check out all 3 seasons of our library of case files. I'm Roshini Rajkumar. Join me next time on The Crisis Files.